I want to welcome one and all for joining us this morning. As soon as we have 11 members present, we're going to have a short business meeting. Some of you know, Senator Capito knows as well. The government printing office apparently made a mistake after we had passed out and reported out our water infrastructure legislation 2 weeks ago. And as a result, we need to simply do again what we did 2 weeks ago, and that's to report out those bills. And I hope we'll do that in short order once we have 11, and then we'll get back to our business that's before us today. I'm going to start, till we have 11, I'm going to start with a statement and invite Senator Capito to do that as well. And if we have 11 people appear magically, we'll break and do the vote. Today's hearing is special for a variety of reasons. One of the reasons is because it has the longest title I've ever seen in 20 years in the United States Senate. The title is Long-Term Solvency of the Highway Trust Fund, Lessons Learned from the Service Transportation System Funding Alternatives Program and Other User-Based Revenue Solutions, and How Funding Uncertainty Affects the Highway Programs. That's it. That's probably the longest acronym. There's probably a great acronym in there somewhere, probably several of them, Senator Capito, but I'm not going to take our time to figure out what it is. I want to thank Senator Capito. I want to thank her staff, our staff, and all of you for helping us put together today's hearing. And we especially want to welcome our witnesses, some of whom are here in person and some who are joining us virtually. Senator Capito and I have been informed that our water legislation, and I want to thank again Senators Capito, Lummis, Cardin, Wicker, others who helped make that legislation possible for us to report it out unanimously 2 weeks ago. My thanks to all of you who supported it. We are informed by our leadership that that legislation very likely will be on the floor. Pardon? Do we have 11? Oh, that's great. All right. In that case, we'll just hold off for a moment on my statement. And my staff informs us that we now have a majority. My ranking member tells me we have the number that we need and we're physically present and able to vote. Therefore, the Senate now considers S. 914, the Drinking Water and Wastewater Infrastructure Act of 2021. First, we'll adopt the bipartisan Carper Capital Amendment number 1, just as we did last month. I move to adopt the Carper Capital Substitute Amendment. Senator Capito and I have agreed to do this by voice vote. Is there a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. I now move that the committee report S. 914, the Drinking Water and Wastewater Infrastructure Act of 2021 as amended. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. I now ask unanimous consent that the business meeting record reflect that S. 914 as amended was reported by the same 20-0 vote as when the committee acted on March 24th, 2021. And I further ask that our staff be allowed to make any necessary technical and conforming changes to this measure. Is there objection? Hearing none, so ordered. So now we'll return to our hearing. And Mary Frances, thank you for helping me get through that landmine field. All right. So I was just mentioning longest title I've ever seen in a piece of legislation. Frankly, one of the most timely and I think interesting hearings that we're going to have in some time. I mentioned we hope and expect to have our water legislation out on the floor a week from now, and I think we're going to have a vote today on another nominee out of our committee, the nomination of Brenda Mallory, who came out of committee on bipartisan vote, and she's been nominated to be the chair of CEQ. And I understand that somebody told me earlier today that 13 past CEO and EPA appointees, 13 past Republican CEO and EPA appointees, including a former CEQ chair and 4 different Republican EPA administrators, publicly praised and urged her confirmation. They include Bill Riley, Christine Todd Whitman, Michael Levitt, Steve Johnson, and James Kavanaugh. And she's also been endorsed by, I think since last we met, by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So I would ask that y'all keep that in mind when we vote later today. When I was new in the Senate, some of us I knew when I got here. Jim Inhofe and I served together in the House. A couple of others had served too. We did like Chuck Schumer and I, Dick Durbin and I. A number of us have served together. And one of the people I didn't, and one of the main things I decided early to do in the Senate is for the folks I never met, didn't serve with in the House, didn't serve with as governor, I decided to go have a cup of coffee with them in their offices. And so I'd ask one after the other, and make my rounds. And one of the last people I asked this was a guy who sat right behind me on the Senate floor. His name's Ted Kennedy. And I told him what I was doing, getting to know people I didn't know. And he said, "Why don't you come to my hideaway? We'll have lunch together." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yes." 2 weeks later, we were in his hideaway, we had lunch together. And one of the things I asked him, Ben, was I said, "Why is it that all these Republicans, why does all these Republicans want to be your co-sponsor on their big bills? Why is that?" And he said these words, he said, "I'm always willing to compromise on policy, never willing to compromise on principle." Think about it, always willing to compromise on policy, never willing to compromise on principle. So I want to start this hearing thinking about, we're going to have to compromise on service transportation legislation as we go along with our colleagues on the committee and in the Senate and in the House and with the administration. But there's some principles I hope we can agree on that we won't very far away from. And one of those is that roads, highways, and bridges in this country are in bad shape. Something needs to be done about it. And we are among the most responsible people for making that happen. The second principle is that climate change is real. We need to combat it. We need to adapt to it. We need to build back better. We need to focus on resilience with all the extreme weather that we're facing. The third principle would be the things that are worth having are worth paying for. Some people describe me as a recovering governor. I'm also a recovering state treasurer. I was a treasurer of the state with the worst credit rating in the country when I was 29 years old. And I've always believed the things that are worth having are worth paying for. And the last principle I hope we can adhere to is those who use our roads, our highways, our bridges have a responsibility to help pay for them. Now, there are in my state, and I'm not sure, but in your states, but in my states, there are a number of major pay-fors for roads, highways, bridges. Gas and diesel tax, vehicle registration, sales taxes when people buy vehicles, driver's licenses. The 800-pound gorilla forever has been gas and diesel taxes for decades. And but I would add to that the times are changing, and I don't think Senator Savin, I was here yet, but gosh, about a dozen or so years ago, she and I were at the Detroit Auto Show. She was kind enough to introduce me to Mary Barra, who was, I think, just about to become CEO of GM. And one of the GM products that year was selected, I think, as the car of the year. It was a Chevrolet Volt, V-O-L-T. Chevrolet Volt, interestingly enough, a hybrid, got 38 miles on a charge. 38 miles on a charge. And after that, you go as traditional hybrid, you're on gasoline. And but anyway, it was the car of the year. That was then, and I went out during the recess while we were on break with my oldest son, and we went out to buy a vehicle to replace my 2001 Chrysler Town & Country minivan, which has almost 600,000 miles on it. And we drove, among other things, a Chevrolet Bolt. It gets 300 miles on a charge. We also drove a Ford Mustang. It gets over 300 miles on a charge. Ford is about to put out an F-150 pickup truck, all electric, and I thought I'd never see the day that we'd have an electric F-150 truck, but it's a top-selling vehicle in the country, as you know. GM says they're not going to be building and selling any gas and diesel-powered vehicles after 2035. They're going to phase them out. Ford is expected to match or better that. Tesla, we drove some Teslas during the break. One of them is a Y model. It gets 350 miles on a charge. There's another vehicle that we took a look at that gets over 400 miles on a charge. And that's it's not everybody's into electric. We've got folks at Toyota have a whole division of their company that's called Mirai. That's Japanese for future. and they are focused on fuel cells, hydrogen and fuel cells. The waste product that comes out of that combination is water that you can drink. GM and Honda are partnering up on fuel cells as well. And there's a South Korean car company, Hyundai, apparently has a whole division of their company that focuses on fuel cells. They use hydrogen, and they're expected to use a lot of it in the years to come. Gas and diesel revenues, our traditional bread and butter for building roads, highways, bridges, maintaining them, are not going to dry up and go away overnight. We're told that the average number of years a vehicle has on the road is about 15 years. So we're going to be using gas and diesel for some time, but by less going forward. I think it was Stephen Stills, Buffalo Springfield, who once sang, something's happening here, just what it is ain't exactly clear. But I think it's becoming clear what's going on, and we have the opportunity to get ahead of it or to get behind it. We need to craft a transportation bill, service transportation bill, that enables us to get in front of what's happening here. And the question is, what will the next generation of vehicles, will they be built here, will be designed here, manufactured here, sold here, or will they be built other places around the world? Will they help us in the battle against climate change or not? And will we look this adversity in the face of climate change and all, and instead of just finding despair, find opportunity? And my hope is that we will find opportunity and it will seize the day. And part of that is figuring out how to build the service transportation system of the future in ways that affect resilience, climate change, and our need is to move ourselves and our goods around the country in cost-effective, safe, and climate-friendly ways. So with that, I would ask unanimous consent that my written statement be inserted for the record. I welcome everybody again. This is I think, an enormously important hearing, and will help us to see the future more clearly and be ready for it. Thank you.